Okay, we're holding here in the Gemara Mesechta Megillah Daf Chaf Hey Amud Aleph 25a, closer to the bottom of the page. The Gemara will elaborate on the Mishnah. Our Mishnah gave us a list of about 5 different parts of the Torah where it's read in shul, but it's not translated by the Mitargim, the translator who would simultaneously translate verse by verse every pasuk in the Torah. The Gemara is now going to give the reasons why many of these different parshias, many of these different parts of the Torah and the Nevi'im and the prophets cannot be translated, why a common person might make a big mistake with it. And also we'll add on another few things throughout the Gemara. The Gemara is going to give us what's called a mnemonic, a siman, which the Gemara is one to do at times. It says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis have taught in a brisa. It's actually in a Tosefta. Yesh nikrin umetargamin. There are portions of the Torah which can be read out loud in shul by the Balkorei or by the one having the Haftorah. Umetargamin, and they can be translated right afterwards for everyone to listen. Yesh nikrin v'lo umetargamin. And there are some portions which can be read but not translated at all. And then you have Mr. Nadich online today. It's good to see you. And there's some parshas, some sections of the Torah which cannot be read or translated, not this and not that. And then the Brisa goes through a list. These things, these parshas, these sections of the Torah are read and translated. You would think there would be a reason why not to do it. And the Gemara says that these are allowed to be read and translated. And if it's not read, for sure it's not translated. But there's some things, some topics in the Torah and Navi, which are so sensitive that you don't even want to read it in the Hebrew. So the Gemara will now give an example of several topics which you could read and translate, and although you might think they're sensitive, it's okay, and people will not come to make a mistake. Elu Nikrin Matargamin, here are a list of sections of the Torah which could be read and could be translated, and everyone can understand it, and we are not worried. And the Gemara gives a mnemonic, Balas Akka Nishbe Simin. 10 different letters. These words don't really have a particular meaning, the words by themselves. It's just these are the abbreviation of all the parshas, all the different portions of the Torah, which are going to be brought in over here. Balas, Akka, Nishba, one starting with a Beis, one with a Lamed, one with a Saf, and so on. Nun, Shin, Pei, Hey. First one, the Beis, Balas, the Beis. It's Maise Bereshis, Mikra Matagim. The Beis stands for Bereshis. In the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. And the Brisa teaches us that you read the Torah portion of Bereshis out loud, and you translate it, the whole creation. On the first day, Hashem created this, and the second day, Hashem created that. Asks the Gemara, Pshita, obviously. Why should you not translate it? Let everybody know how Hashem created the world. Says the Gemara, Mao the Tema, I might come to think and say, people are going to start asking too many questions. Mala, Maila, Maila Mata, what is above, what is below. meaning there's many questions which are better left unasked. For some things, like in Yecheskel, the chariot of Hashem, you have the angels in heaven and the angels lower down. And these are topics which are best left untouched by others, because other people who are unlettered might come to think they understand it. And then they're going to begin to say that I myself can understand. I don't need someone to explain it to me. So therefore, in order that you might think that I should not start translating the portion of the creation of the world, because people are going to start asking too many questions. What's higher? What's lower? Rashi in Mesechta Megillah, where they bring this Brisa also, and he says that Mala Maila mean what is above the heavens? What's higher than, I know the heavens, are there angels? What's above that? Malamata, what's below? Malifnim, turning the page to 25b. Mala'achar, what was before creation? What was after creation? What was there before the world was created? Like, for example, if the king tells his servants, build me a city where there was a big landfill, build me a palace where there's a landfill. So there's no need to mention the landfill before the city. So before creation, the word of Torah says, the world was complete emptiness. And you would think that they should not mention what the world was before creation. So Kamash Malan, it comes to teach you don't have to worry about it, because and this is a very important thing, especially nowadays in shuls, since we don't speak during Kuriyas HaTorah, during the reading of the Torah, no one's allowed to talk. So therefore, nobody is going to come to ask these questions. In the meantime, everyone's already busy hearing the next part of the Torah and the next part. Tosfos over here on the side adds on a few more words. Malifnim is what was before creation. Mala'achar means what will happen after 6,000 years of creation, or after 7,000 years. And he adds on, what is to the east and what is to the west. To realize many people understood that the world was flat, and if you could literally fall off the edge of the earth. And again, this is not, we went through this, I think, about 2 years ago. We brought a letter of the Rabbi, quoting the Zohar from thousands of years before, talking about how the earth is round. But many people say, what's before, what's after, what's before I'm born, what's after I die. The Marsha brings another text of the Gemara, Ma'al Yamin, Ma'al Ismo, what's to the right and to the left. So not necessarily to the north and south, but what's to the right and what's to the left. And there's a certain mitzvah called Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elekecha. You have to be sincere with Hashem, not to ask questions that are not meant to be asked, that are not applicable. So therefore, it's a mitzvah to be sincere. Therefore, you might think that you should not translate the parsha of Bereshis, of creation, but it comes to teach you that you could translate the parsha of Bereshis. Next one. The story of Lot and his two daughters. After the city of Sodom and all the 4 cities were destroyed, later on the 5th city as well, Lot was hiding in a cave with his daughters. And Lot, as Babinel explains, Lot told his daughters that the entire world was destroyed, just like it was in the times of the Mabul, of the flood, and we're the only survivors. And they ended up, the daughters got the Lot drunk, and they had children, both had children with Lot. So So the second letter of this abbreviation was Bolas. The Lamed stands for Lot. Loit and his daughters is read in shul out loud, and it's translated as well. Ask the Gemara, Pshita. For sure, why should it not be? Why would you think otherwise? The Gemara answers, Mao, the Tema, I would have thought to say. I should be worried about the honor of Avram Avinu, who was the uncle of Lot. And so maybe it shouldn't be translated. Meaning about Lot himself, we don't have any issue to say something which is, not positive. But it's not, but you might think that, it's not a good thing to have a same name as be related to someone who did something which is improper, which even back then they would not do. Kamash Malon, it comes to teach you that it's not a problem. Why? Because the daughters of Lot had in mind, as it says in Medrash, they didn't have in mind to sin necessarily. The daughters of Lot thought that they're doing a continuation of the entire civilization of mankind. And since the daughters had in mind L'Shem Shemayim, for the sake of heaven, and not just that, it was something positive, because you see that David HaMelech comes from them, Mashiach came out from them, from Lot and his daughters, from this union. So you see that there is actually a positive spin to the entire situation. So therefore,
Something's happening. We can't hear you. Can't see you. You hear me, Rabbi? Hello, hello, hello.
I don't know what happened because I just tried dialing in again.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
I don't know, it's happening more and more often. Sorry. Okay. Avram Avinu earlier, when he separated from Lot, he told Lot, let us separate. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. Ki anashim achim anachnu, because we are people who are brothers. So it wasn't just that they were related. Many people are related, but they were called themselves brothers. Lahavdil, there was one of the top Nazi officials, Hermann Goring. He had a brother, Albert, who was a very strong, anti-Nazi. And matter of fact, he even saved Jews during the Holocaust. His brother was Hermann Goring. So it's possible we have brothers who are very different, and it doesn't show on one over the other. But the fact that Avram Avinu told Lot that we will always be together, and I will always be there to support you. So you might say something, why is Avram Avinu connecting himself to such a person like Lot? And so you might think to say, we shouldn't say any negative story about Lot. Lot telling his daughters a story how the world is destroyed. But since there's a positive spin on it, that first of all, their daughters had in mind L'Shem Shemayim, for the sake of heaven. Mashiach came from there, from that union. And also, even though we see Avram Avinu moved away from Lot after the story, but Lot also was a living lesson. What happens when you drink? When a person drinks too much wine, so sometimes negative things could happen from there. Next, the Gemara says, Meiser Tama v'Yehuda Nikra Ometargim. So now the Saf of the Balas Akan, we're up to the 3rd out of 10 Parshas. The story of Tamar and Yehuda is read and it's translated. Yehuda was tricked into having relations with Tamar, his daughter-in-law, after her husband passed away, who was disguised as a harlot. And the Medrash explains that actually Yehuda was almost forced into this act, because eventually Mashiach would come from the descendants of Yehuda and Tamar. Says the Gemara, Ma'u detema pshita. Obviously, it's. I would think that I should. Why should I not say the story of Yehuda and Tamar? Says the Gemara, Ma'u detema. I would have thought to say, Leichush l'kvoide Yehuda. I should be concerned about the honor of Yehuda. How Yehuda, true, he did something wrong and ended up being, in retrospect, it could be something positive, but we should maybe try protecting the honor of Yehuda. And gosh, Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom.
How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, let's continue. So the story of Yehuda and Tamar, you might think to say that you should be worried about the honor of Yehuda and not translate it, even though you read it. Comes to teach you that it's a credit, it's something a positive for Yehuda to say that Yehuda admitted to what he did was wrong. Because Yehuda admitted that Tamar was right and really Tamar is pregnant from him. And so Yehuda admitted that he made a mistake, and therefore we could learn from there the idea of teshuvah. Question is asked by the Marsha, if so, our Mishnah said that the story of Reuven is read and not translated. All right, Reuven Nikra V'Lemitagim. The incident of Reuven is read and not translated. Question is, why not translate it? Because also Reuven himself admitted later on that he did the wrong thing. And so we could learn tshuva from Reuven as well. Why not translate it? The answer given is that Reuven only admitted what he did wrong after he saw that Yehuda admitted his wrongdoing. Yehuda opened up the path of teshuvah. Once Yehuda opened the path of teshuvah, showing that you could admit your mistakes, Reuven followed him as well. But he didn't do it, you could say, on his own volition entirely. But Yehuda did it entirely on his own. saying, why should I have 3 people killed needlessly, Tamar and her 2 children? Next in the Gemara. So we did so far Beis Lam itself, Balas. Things that you read and you translate. How about Ayin? Akan, Mishpah. So up to the Ayin. Ayin is the Egel. Story of the golden calf. We said Maisa Egel Rishon. There are 2 parts of the Torah portion of the golden calf. And one is, the first 20 psukim saying what the Jewish people did. And then comes the next 4 psukim when Aaron repeats to Moshe Rabbeinu what happened, the whole entire story, how they made the golden calf. So the first part is read and translated. The second part is not read and is read but not translated. Says the Tosefta, Maisa Egel Harishon Nikra Umatagim. The first incident of the golden calf is read and translated. Ask the Gemara Pshita. Obviously, why should it not be read and translated? Answers the Gemara. Now the tema Yisrael. I might be thinking to say that we should be concerned about the honor of the Jewish people. So why publicize in a greater way by translating to everybody what the Jewish people, how they sinned? Kamash Mallah, and it comes to teach you that the Brisa, saying that we read and we translate in Shul. The Torah reading of the Chet Egel, the Kol Shekain, the Nichelu, the Havilu Kapara. You should read it out loud because it makes an atonement. It makes a kapara for somebody when their sin is publicized, because through that the person is embarrassed, and that embarrassment, Hashem takes away their sin. Embarrassment itself is a tremendous punishment. If one embarrasses someone else, it's like they kill them, because there's an explanation that the blood rushes to the face. So therefore, the fact that the Torah is that it's read out loud, talking about the sin of the Jewish people, it atones for what the Jewish people have done. Or it will teach people that you could do teshuvah, that even you did such a big sin, Hashem still could forgive them. Now, the Ben Ish Chai asks a question over here. Over here, you're not mentioning the names of any of the people who served the golden calf. You just say certain shvatim, certain tribes, but you don't say who sinned. How is it bringing them a kapara, an atonement? So he says, you're not learning, the atonement is not the fact, atonement for a particular individual. The atonement is that you're bringing other people to do teshuvah. And it's possible, as you can see, that even someone who passed away, you could bring a kapara, you could bring an atonement for them. If so, how come we don't translate story of Reuven when you moved Yaakov's bed? Let's see also that you could have an atonement. Why not translate that? So, is a big difference of an atonement for an individual or an atonement for the people. For the entire Jewish nation, it makes sense to translate it because the entire Jewish nation till today still has to be hakapara, it has to be forgiven for the sin of the Chet Egel. But Reuven, he did a complete teshuvah. And there's different levels of teshuvah that could be done, but Reuven did the highest level of teshuvah. And Reuven, in essence, didn't really do such a big sin. The only thing that Reuven did was move his father's bed. And the Torah considers it as if he had relations with his father's concubine. Sorry, I hope it's not gonna. So since the Torah says such strong words about Reuven that he slept with his father's concubine, so then there's no point of reading it because people will not understand what exactly it means. Some say that Reuven went to the place where he moved Yaakov's bed. Meaning that Reuven went and he hid himself sort of in the place where Yaakov was supposed to be having relations with Bilhah, in order that Yaakov shouldn't do it. And Yaakov did not have relations with Bilhah, not intimate with Bilhah, because no one's allowed, if there's anybody present, says you're not allowed to be intimate over there. Or anybody's even listening. And it says because of that, that's why Yaakov didn't have any more children. He says because Reuven would always be around. But that's another, and to say such a thing is a very big, you could say, not nice thing to say about Reuven. And Reuven will make sure to be present in order that, to stick up for his mother's honor. Next one, Klaus of Brachas, Nikrin Mutagamin. So far we've done 4. Balas Aka Nishva, Beis Lam itself. Now we're up to that. We did Ayin of the Cheta Egel. We're up to Kuf. Kuf is a Klaus of Brachas. Nikrin Umitagamin. The curses and the blessings are found in 2 places in the Torah. One is the Parshas Bechukaisai, the end of Chumash Vayikra, and one is in Parshas Kisavai. We have 98 calamities that will fall upon the Jewish people if you don't keep the Torah. And it's read and it's translated as a Gemara Pshita. Obviously, it should be translated. And it says a Gemara Mao, the Tema I would have thought to say. Nechosh, we should be worried. Dilma Paiga Datayu the Tzibura. If you translate, if you listen to the entire Torah reading, he could become very, very dismayed. The famous story with the Mittler Rebbe, when one time he did not hear the Alter Rebbe reading the Torah on Parshas Kisavai, and he became so sick and so weak in his heart that the doctors had a doubt if he needs to fast, if he should fast Yom Kippur, which was a few weeks later. And they asked him, why did it affect you so much? And he says, because when the Alter Rebbe reads it, I don't hear the curses. So you might think that people will become too disheartened. And they're going to say, hey, we're anyways going to get punished. We're anyways going to mess up. It's futile. So since we're anyways going to get punished, let's just enjoy life. And let's sort of give up, and lie flat and just go after everything the Torah says is forbidden to do. So therefore, Kamash Milan, the Tosefta is coming to here to teach us that it's not a problem and you don't have to worry and it's okay to read it. Now, for sure, the brachas, the blessings, would make sense to always translate the blessings. Why say Kollel of brachas? Why over here say the blessings and the curses? The Maharsha explains that it's a package deal. The brachas and the curses go together because one opposite the other. If one receives a blessing, they have to know the opposite side as well. And the main thing that we're over here is called the klalis, the curses, but we have to know which ones which come with the brachas, ones which come with the blessings as well. And you're not concerned for the fact that maybe people will become too overwhelmed from the fear of all these curses and become depressed. Either become depressed and not be able to serve Hashem, or become disheartened and not want to serve Hashem at all. Interesting halachic outcome from the previous Gemara about the Egel is something that we do till today, and we read Parshas Kisisa. It has the longest Rishon and Sheni in the Torah. I think we've gone through this before. The whole entire pasuk, the whole entire parsha, I think, is 123 psukim or so, 130 something psukim, and there's let's go to Parshas Kisisa. Here. Where Aliyah number 1 is 40 psukim, Aliyah number 2 is 41 psukim. Just I'll do it like this, according to the parsha. Parshas. Okay. Anyways, Aliyah number 1 is 40 psukim, Aliyah number 2 is 41 psukim, and the rest of the parsha altogether, I think, is 40 psukim. The next 5 aliyahs together. And the reason is because Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi, did not serve the golden calf. They were not involved at all. And Aliyah, the first Aliyah of Parshas Kisisa, is speaking about the mitzvah of Machas HaShekel, half a coin, making a Tiferes, etc., keeping Shabbos. The second Aliyah is a story of the golden calf. And the third Aliyah already is the Torah reading of today, and to atone, how Hashem atoned for the sin of the golden calf. But since Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi, did not at all serve the golden calf, therefore the Aliyah of Sheni, we call up a Levi. The Aliyah, we want it when we call up the first one is a Kohen, second one is a Levi. We call up a Levi to receive an Aliyah, and we want to put all the psukim, all the verses which talk about the golden calf with the Levi, so it shouldn't embarrass the Israel. And if there's no Levi in show, you should give it to a Kohen. But you definitely should not give a Yisrael, because unless there's only Yisraelim in shul, but definitely don't give it to Yisrael, because for Yisrael it's considered to be embarrassing. The Chida asks, seemingly we see from our Gemara that it's not a problem to read the story of the Egel out loud. There's no problem that you're worried that you're going to embarrass the Jewish nation for serving the golden calf. You see, it's a good thing to read it because it gives them a kapara. So if so, let Yisrael get the Aliyah of Sheni and make normal sized Aliyahs now and not have a long chitas on Sunday and Monday. And don't worry about the fact that you'll embarrass Yisrael by getting the Aliyah, because let him be embarrassed, because it will bring a kapara, it will bring a atonement for the Jewish people. So the Chida, he answers and he explains like this. He says, the reason why we don't give a Yisrael to read the story of the Egel is not because they're going to be embarrassed, but rather for a different reason. Because, as we spoke about in the last few blot, the custom was back then that everyone received an Aliyah, would read the Torah, would be the Bakara, would read it themselves. Right? Then we said there would be one bracha in the beginning of the first Aliyah, one bracha at the end of the last Aliyah. So if Yisrael will be called up to the Torah to receive the Aliyah, and he is actually going to be the Balkari, the one reading it out loud for everybody, it seems to say like this: everyone else sinned, but I did not sin. And that's a big chutzpah to say that. It's a sheker, it's a falsehood. So they said that let it be a Levi who reads it, in order that the Levi should be giving over the message that Leviim really did not sin. And if a Levi's reading it, it'll be even more, you could say, embarrassment for the rest of the Israelim. That I'm a Levi, I did not sin, and he's reading about what the Israelim did. Now, even though nowadays we have a Balkari, people do not read the Torah themselves when they receive an Aliyah. But the Minhag still say that the Levi is the one who gets the Aliyah of the story of the Chet HaEgel. Even, it doesn't make a difference if the Balkari is a Levi, or Balkari could even be a Yisrael. Because once we have the person who's receiving the Aliyah being a Levi, so we already understand that it's going to be, the message is there that the Levi is getting the Aliyah. And by the Balkari itself, he's reading everything, not just reading that part. He's reading all of it equally. It's not if somebody would be getting only that aliyah and he's reading only that parsha, it could be an embarrassment to the rest of the Jewish people. But the Eretz himself, he's reading the entire Torah portion, and he's reading Rishon, Sheni, all the way through Shvi. And if Kisisa, right, whatever maftir there is for that week, if it could be a Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, the Makariah could be a Yisrael, because as long as the person receiving the Aliyah could be a Levi. We're up to the Gemara to Azharis, and we'll continue Emir Hashem with the Gemara on Monday. For now, we're going to do a few more halachas and minhagim of Chabad in regards to Tainis Esther and Purim. So we'll speak about the custom, the minhag, what's called a machatzis hashekel, to give half of a gold coin, half of a silver coin. It is customary before Purim to redo the mitzvah of giving half of a coin or whatever common unit of currency is in that place. So over here it's half a dollar. In Canada, it's half a Canadian dollar. In Israel, it's half a shekel. As a remembrance to the machzis shekel, half a coin, which was given for every single Jewish person for the communal karbanis in the times of the Beis Hamikdash in the month of Adar. And we do 3 times. We give 3 half coins. Because it says the word truma, you should in the beginning Parshas Kisisa, where it speaks about giving the machatzis shekel. So it says the word truma 3 times. You should donate 3 times. So we do 3 half coins. But we do it in the evening before you read the Megillah. We do it, practicality, we do it by mincha before the fast day, because on the fast day, one is supposed to give extra tzedakah out of fast day, at least the amount of tzedakah, at least the amount that of the amount of food of the value of 3 meals. So usually the person would eat 3 meals on the day of a fast day, and now they're not eating it. They're saving whatever the cost of 3 meals are. So you should give that amount of money to tzedakah. And we give it to the poor people, and we do it by mincha, on Tainis Esther, because that's the time when many people come to shul. And it's a very populated time at that time. Some people have a minhag to give silver coins. The coin should actually be silver, but that's an extra hiddur that some people have. The Rabbi himself, some years would be a silver coin, some years would not be a silver coin. The reason that originally it was made for before the Megillah is read is because back in those days, people from the cities would come in by night people from the villages would come to the cities by night to hear the Megillah. And so that's when a time even the people in the small villages will be able to give machatzis hashekel. But if it would be done by day, then one person would give, one person wouldn't give. So we do it before mincha, but if you didn't do it before mincha, you should at least do it before the Megillah is read. Katan patur, a child under bar bas mitzvah does not have to give machatzis shekel. Once a parent gives for a child machatzis shekel, they are obligated to continue giving for them. Then from the age of 13, there's 2 opinions if one is obligated to give or not, and so some say it only starts from the age of 20, and therefore they should give. Now, the minhag of the Tzemach Tzedek and all the Rebbeim was that they would give machzas shekel for every single person in their family. And there is even a Makar source for this. I brought it up over here. This is in the Mishnah Shkalim, right? Mishnah Hay in the first parak. So it says on the first of Adar is when the announcement of Shkalim, the collection of half a shekel for every single person, of every single adult male Jew, and it says what they would do with a half a shekel. They would fix the roads, the mikvahs, bring the communal karbanos, and on the 15th of Adar, the money changers would sit by tables in order to exchange people's money. And it says, who is obligated to give? Levi, Israel, Gerim, Avadim, free men, Jews, but women and children do not have to give the machzas shekel. Kohanim don't have to give, but they could if they want. And then in Mishnah Hay, he says, although we said in the previous Mishnah that you do not seize a collateral, meaning you do not force women and children or Kanani servants to give a machzas shekel, im shaklu mekablin miyadim. If they did give, you can accept it. Meaning that there is an idea that they are allowed to give a machzas shekel, and if you give, you accept it. So therefore, there's already a source that the Rebbe brings this idea and several times in Tainis Esther Tashon Tes, in Sichos Kodesh Tashon Beis also he brought this idea that they're allowed to give, and more than that, you should encourage children to give machzas shekel. They should give a half a coin as well, and they should use their own money. And parents should help the children do this. Make sure they have enough money left over for their own personal needs after. If you didn't give it on Tainis Esther, you could give it also before the Megillah reading on Purim. And like we learned over here, the best time to do it is before the Megillah, except that we change the time. There's a verse from the Maggid is rich, where it says, Aseh lecha shtei chatzitzeres kesef. Make for yourself. Oh, here it is. On the day which Hashem set up the Mishkan, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, Pasuk Beis, Aseh lecha shtei chatzitzeres kesef. Make for yourself 2 trumpets out of silver. Totally silver, and they should be for you to call and to make announcements, to gather people together. The Maggid of Mizrich explains, the word chatzotzeres comes from the word chatzoe tzuros. Chatzoe tzuros means half forms. Moshe Rabbeinu, we said, was half a holy person, half almost like an angel, and half like a person. Hashem told him, I want both halves of you to become one. You have to elevate the people to the higher level. So shtei chatzot sudas, you give a half a shekel, says the Maggid is rich, and nobody by themselves is complete without the other one. You have to give part of you to become complete. But one Jew by himself is not complete without the other one. The Alshich writes in Parshas Kisisa that the Jewish people gave a half a shekel to atone for the sin of the golden calf. And since the woman did not sin, there's no need for the woman to give a half a shekel. Therefore, women don't have to give. But since a man by himself is only half a person, once he's married, it says he meets his second half, his better half. So therefore, only a half a person has to give a shekel. So 2 people together is a full shekel, but the man by himself who needs a kapara, the atonement, he's giving a half a shekel. And it's actually interesting. It says part of the reason we give a half a shekel is to atone for the story of when the brothers sold Yosef. There were 10 brothers, and Yosef was sold. However, Reuven was not present when Yosef was sold. So he had really 9 brothers who were present when Yosef was sold. Now it says they were sold for 5 slayim, which is about 5 shekels. So since there are 10 brothers who sold him, each one received a profit of Yosef's sale of a half a shekel. So therefore we have to give a half a shekel. However, if you look at the Mishnah, let's go back to the Mishnah over here. It says that when everybody gave a half a shekel, they had to give what's called a kolbain. Mishnah number 4. Maybe it's later on. A kolbain was like the money changer's fee. We don't really have that so much nowadays, except when you go to change currency from one to the other, and basically they take a fee for changing your currency. It's called the money changer's fee. It's called a kolbain, which is about 1 fraction of a shekel, about 1/20th or something of a half a shekel, 40th. It'll be the money changer's fee, because there will be so many half shekels, millions of half shekels being given all across the whole country, all across everywhere. So therefore, they couldn't send so much physical money. It's not like today's you could just Zelle or PayPal or Cash App, Chase Pay or whatever method, wiring money like you could do today. They couldn't do that back then, and they used to send the actual money. So they would take all the small coins and they would convert it to larger coins, and the money changers would take a fee. It's called a kolbain. And since Reuven was not part of the brothers who sold the Yosef, he was absent then. So every one of the 10 brothers received a half a shekel profit, plus a little more because Reuven was not present. And therefore, everyone gives a half a shekel plus the kolbain as well.
Benjamin wasn't there either.
Correct.
I mean, he was.
Right. I'm saying, so for that reason, I'm saying Benjamin really wouldn't need the kapara either. I mean, technically for that reason, yeah, I guess you would not need to have the to have a kapara for the chet egel. Rather, it's for other things. But it's interesting how the Rebbe says that everybody should do it. Even children should do the machzah shekel. I had a great uncle, you could say, of mine. His name was Chaim Schreiber. Unfortunately, he was married to my grandfather's sister. He didn't have children. His father was a Pinchas Schreiber, Pinyan Rakshaker, one of the great Bachrim in Yeshiva of Tamchet Timimim. He was a great chassid. He would daven on Shabbos for many, many hours. And when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he was in Kfar Chabad, and he was a gabbai of the big shul in Kfar Chabad called the Merkazi Shul, the central shul of Kfar Chabad. It's a nice large shul. And he was very, very frum, very strict on himself. He was very meticulous, very exact in everything. He says he never lost a paper in his life. Everything was meticulous, orderly, clean. And on himself, he was very strict. And for the sake of the whole shul, he was also very strict. So one thing in Kfar Chabad, there was a generator, and it was using electricity. The water was being run by electricity, and there was a possibility that it was being, in the central station is being tended to by Jews, and as a result of people being Michal Shabbos, not keeping Shabbos, the water is coming to Kfar Chabad. So he would not use any water on Shabbos from the sink. Nowadays, Kfar Chabad has a different system. It's called a generator, which generates all the power for the whole Kfar Chabad from before Shabbos, and they use that on Shabbos. So there's no many from neighborhoods have this, so they're not connected to the central electric grid on Shabbos, so it shouldn't have any possibility of Chilul Shabbos. The Rebbe was very behind it. But since there's electric pumps powering the water, he wouldn't use the water on Shabbos. So what he would do is before Shabbos, in Kfar Chabad, for the shul, the big shul, he would spend a long time in Erev Shabbos filling up large buckets of water, or large whatever things of water, containers of water. And so everyone in shul who needed to wash their hands for anything would use only that on Shabbos. So you can imagine the amount of effort it took for every single hours, every single Erev Shabbos, just to fill up buckets of water, fill up huge containers for the whole shul to use for a whole Shabbos. So just to give an example of his level of chumrah. But like I mentioned earlier that he would daven for many hours on Shabbos, barichos at length, like a chassid. His father was a pinyan akshaker, and he would finish davening very late. And at the kiddush in the shul on Shabbos, where everybody washed, it wasn't like today when you had fancy chalents and sushi at the kiddush, and everyone washed and had challah and herring. That's pretty much what the kiddushim were back then. And after he finished davening, he would go around and, being the Gabbai, he ordered lechem mishnah for the whole shul to have. And after davening, he would go and he would make kiddush, and then he would make hamoitzi. But since it was so late in the afternoon, he wasn't always able to find two shlemas, two complete chalas. He had to look around for it. And a lot of times, the challah that he had was not completely full, was maybe missing a little piece. But he never looked for shlemas. He never looked for a complete chalas. Whatever two chalas he came up, if they're partially passable, he would use them to make a mitzi, to do lechem mishnah. So people asked him, said, Rabbi Chaim, says you're so machmir, you're so strict and frum on yourself. And when it comes to making the lechem mishnah, which is halachas, a whole siman Shulchan Aruch about the challah, and why don't you look for proper challah that's shlemus? So he says Chassidim never look for shlemus. Chassidim never look to be perfect. So that's an important message also from the Machzah Shekel, that we don't look for perfection. The goal is not to get to the goal. The goal is to travel to the goal. We have just one more halacha in the next few minutes that we have. You say al nisim, if you forget to say al nisim, you say by Chanukah. An interesting halachas which happened this morning on Chazan. If you forgot to say Anenu while you're Chazan for Shachris, you should say it during Shemei Tefillah. By Mincha on Tainis Esther, which is today, is longer than usual, so we start earlier to finish before sunset. Similar to Mincha on Shabbos, the Chazan says a slow Kaddish after Torah reading in order that the Torah has time to return to the Aron Kodesh, because you don't say Kaddish after Kriyas HaTorah. If you forgot to say Anenu during Shemini Esrei, you could, during Shemei Tefillah, you could say it after the first Yul Ratzon by Elkai Netzar. If you forgot it, you don't go back to it again. Someone who's not fasting does not say Anenu, preferably should not receive an aliyah either. And the Rebbe reinstated the custom of what's called Machzas HaShekel. But interesting halacha. This Shabbos is Shabbos Parshas Zachar, and we have over here in Pittsburgh a bar mitzvah boy reading the Shabbos. He's going to read bar mitzvah and he's learning the Torah. Now, again, there's two opinions. What is a gadol, someone who can learn? And it says that it's preferable that to read Parshas Zachar, since it's a deraisa, it's a Torah, it's a kriya, which is one is biblically obligated. One should have an adult with a full beard reading the Megillah, reading the Parshas Zachar, preferably, because it's something of deraisa. It's from the Torah. Now, if you don't have it, then there's not much that you could do. If the only person who knows how to read is someone 13, doesn't have a full beard, then they could become a Balkaire. But the best that someone who's an adult should be the Balkaire for Parshas Zachar. Balkari has to read out loud. Clearly, have in mind that everyone should fulfill the mitzvah, and we don't say tzedkascha during mincha. Today is already Yud Aleph Adar. There's Minhagei Papa. I have a sefer here, the Minhagim of Papa. And it's not just that. Satmar, they already stopped saying Tachanun already from the 11th of Adar, from a time of simcha and joy. So we should all have lots of simcha, lots of joy.